Hey, welcome back to the Cedric and Ada content creation roller coaster. That's right. All the folks who've just started watching are like, what's with the content being like?
We're all gonna be rich!
We broke even!
And all the people who've been here for years, they're looking at him like,
First time.
yeah. So yeah, done with the whims of my outside world, unfortunately. We've got a review today though, which is good, and it's going to have all the stuff that you like in it. It's going to have size comparisons, it's going to have, you know, commentary, it's going to have edge testing, it's going to have demonstrations, it's going to be great. It's the Benchmade Freek, subject of today's review. So, larger knife, made in America by the Benchmade Knife Company. They had an odd last 18 months, didn't they? You know what, now that the coronavirus has happened, and the intense knife bros are like, I think you can probably safely review a Benchmade without your comments being filled with the same 5 different comments spammed over and over again by people who seem to think they're the first ones to think of them. That being said, the whole thing to me in Australia was utterly bizarre, but there you go. Benchmade seems to be, I guess, probably likely to recover a bit if that's the way the industry is truly going. If everyone is buying USA, well, you can buy USA and you can get a knife here that I would argue, and I'm going to argue, is as good, if not a bit better, than the standard of the larger EDC knives, the paramilitary 2. Now, I don't have a huge amount of love. I have some like. I have a lot of like for paramilitary 2, but I never really crossed over into love for paramilitary 2. Just a little bit boxy on the handles, never really quite fit my hand perfectly with the pinchy sort of grip that requires when you choke up. Just not a perfect fit for me. This knife here is a much better fit for my hand, which is basically most of the battle won. Because the blades are about as tall as each other with about the same behind the edge thicknesses. The steels, you can get this in M4 as well as this. This is in S110V. This base model is in S30V, as is this base model. They're both about the same size. And speaking of size, let's jump straight into the size comparison, and then we'll talk about this blade from tail to tip. Alrighty, so the blade on this guy, this is not the basic Freek that you buy. You can still buy these. These are available, I think, almost as an evergreen model of it. You can certainly buy them from Benchmade's website, and at the time of filming from Blade HQ. This is M4 steel. So M4 steel is a non-stainless powdered, this is the powdered version of the non-powdered M4, so CPM M4 tool steel. And M4 is one of the oldest steels, but it's got a lot of good stuff in it that leads it to hold an edge for a very long time. However, it will rust, hence the black coating. And yes, it definitely will rust.
See?
But if you're okay with that, you're going to get some pretty decent cutting performance. That being said, I did my edge retention test on this one, and it cut through the rope 470 times. So 470 times isn't huge. It's very good, but I've had M4 do a little bit better before. But then the rope test it's just me doing a test in my house, so it's hardly science. If you want science about all this stuff, maybe go and check out knifesteelnerds.com and look at what his catch row testing is getting us. But that's what mine did. So it got a really good result on the rope cut test, but nothing compared to, like, well, for example, the S110V on this paramilitary 2 will cut longer than this M4 on the Benchmade in a rope cut test, but then this is a harder steel as well. And yeah, there's all sorts of things at play. What I'm saying is it's definitely middle upper tier in terms of edge retention, which is impressive because it's a very old steel, just redone in a somewhat new way. Although particle metallurgy is not really new anymore either. I digress. That was a 17-degree mirror polished edge too. But steel wise, it's great. A complete, I would not complain about M4 ever. So absolutely fine. Now, listening to how the blade cuts, feeling how the blade cuts, certainly is in the camp of a good EDC slicing / upgrade maybe to hard use knife if you want to. So it doesn't have a super thin behind the edge bevel, it's just got a nice, it'd be about 20 thousandths or something, the standard, nothing too fat. The blade itself is quite thin, it's a little bit thinner than the Paramilitary 2's blade, and it is a little bit taller overall. So the Paramilitary 2 has a tall part here, but then down here it's not. So it's about the same, about the same thickness, a little bit taller. So it does do some pretty reasonable slicing work. I'm pretty happy with it overall. It's been a great user. What I like the most about this knife is the handle, however. It's got a really nice neutral handle that my hand sort of envelops quite easily. Now, the clip I changed. This comes with the split clip, I think they call it, which isn't super successful at being a clip because it looks like a penis. Oh, did I say the quiet part loud and the loud part quiet? Well, it does. So I changed it to the deep carry clip, which is the easiest thing in the world to do because Benchmade sends you clips if you ask for them. So just for reference, this is the original clip that I switched from. Giggity. And this is the new clip that I have inserted onto the knife. It's a deep carry clip and it carries just fine. What it does change slightly though, and what may be your clip, because it is flatter at an earlier point, so the fat of your hand does sit on it a little bit differently. Having this deep carry clip start all the way back there does mean that your back end of the knife handle is about that thick instead of, well, it would have been about that thick. So just something to think about. Trade-offs for me is it carries a bit better and I don't really notice any particularly bothersome ergonomics because of it. And indeed, doing my rope cut test, which is a great test of ergonomics as well, the knife was really comfortable in the hand. My arm, on the other hand, gets a bit sore because it's a bit of a weird thing to do over and over again, but in terms of ergonomics, it's great. It's comfortable. It's more comfortable, in my opinion, than the Paramilitary 2. So that's what I like the most about the knife is the handle. The blade is really, really good too. The lock on this guy is the Axis lock. Axis locks have thin springs that run in them, Omega springs. You do a Benchmade video, any sort of feedback will always involve the person who has had their Omega springs break, and it clearly does happen. So it's a thin spring that can get either kind of caught up or wedged between stuff in there, and it's definitely in the minority of cases, but it does certainly happen. But it's about the same sort of failure rate, I would argue, as maybe a cold steel triad lock getting a bit of stuff in it without you realizing and then not locking properly, because that's actually happened to me as well. Things are gonna break, things are gonna happen, but it's not such a widespread problem that I wouldn't suggest buying an Omega spring locking, Axis locking Benchmade knife. The patent on the Benchmade Axis lock has now expired, which is why you're getting things like the Mass Drop Perpetua with the same, whatever they call it, slide lock or sliding bolt lock or whatever they call it, anything but Axis lock. So it is a good lock. It's a good enough lock that lots of people have been waiting, been jonesing for it to come free for use. So there you go. I like it a whole lot. It's good. It gives you like the whole one hand closing and opening thing. You can just pull a lock back and flick the knife back and forward. My knife here, this has been used a fair bit, so it's actually a little bit stiff. I might have to do a disassembly and have a look at how the washers are going. Also, the black coating often makes things just a little bit less fluid, just because it's another kind of, a few microns of thickness in there on the blade surface, on the blade parts, all that sort of thing. Just something to be aware of. The blade coating did hold up, and the blade did hold up to some more silly use. I took this out and I split some wood apart with it, and this is definitely a good hard use knife. If that is a real thing, that you really need to know about your knife. You can use this hard and nothing will break immediately, which is all I can really show you in a knife review, in a video knife review. Ideally, video knife review channels would handle one knife for 6 months and do one magnum opus video every 6 months, but people's attention spans don't let us work like that. Your subscribers would drop to zero. There wouldn't be much, it would be difficult. But that would be the truly best way to get a long-term screen on how hard use this actually is to do that often. But I did that a bit, and it seems to me that it has the innate strength in there to withstand a fair bit of punishment. So that's cool as well. I really like the looks of it. It reminds me a little bit of the Ritter Griptilian, the Doug Ritter Griptilian. A little bit bigger, of course. And yeah, it really does, in my opinion, kind of obsolete the full-sized grip just a little bit. Like, it's just got a few extra improvements, especially given that they're not yet doing the CF Elite. They're still using the FRN on the full-size grips. Yeah, they're a little bit cheaper, but go this one. Get the M4. Get the non-rubberized G10. The standard Freek, I'm not sure if I said, comes with sort of a rubberized strip inside here, which I always say, hold up and just think about how it's going to stick inside my pocket. So I much prefer this sort of textured, standard solid slab of a G10. I think it looks good, like the red liners, like the black coating, it all kind of matches pretty well if how your knife looks to you is a thing. But yeah, this one really does tick all the boxes for me. It's truly excellent. The steel is good, the ergonomics are good, the blade cut's really good. It's just an all-around a good knife. And that's coming from someone who reviews knives often and knows a lot of adjectives. This knife is certainly good. Yeah, it's a win. It's a little bit pricey. Benchmade's are pricey. This is about $220 US. So that's a lot of money. In Australia, it's probably going to be about $300 and who are we kidding? In Australia, it's probably going to be about $700 given the exchange rate at the moment. But if you're after something in this price point, for that sort of could use for any job, could give to any person, same class as the American Lawman, the paramilitary too, I'd say the Freek it's a good one, and it's possibly the best one if you get it at M4 and in G10. Alright, before it's all wine and roses, one of the things that did piss me off about the knife was when I went to disassemble it. Pivot came out, nice, sort of turned it against the whatever Loctite they use, popped, great, no worries. Second screw, third screw, stripped instantly. So, and it was, I was doing no different to, first, so pivot, 1, 2, third screw, no damn good, drove me crazy. I do have a spare screw, so I might have to try the rubber band trick or something to get it out, but I have a feeling it's probably just overly Loctited in there. Something I wish that companies would do as part of their QC before things go out is just have someone test. Can someone unscrew the screw without it breaking? Because otherwise, why not just seal the whole thing in? And I know it's like, we've all got our techniques for not doing that, but I literally approached it with the same level of force as the other screws and it stripped. So annoying. So right now I can't get to that glorious, gloriously gritty, dirty pivot that I've no doubt created for myself in there. What I have done though is applied some of my swankiest of knife pivot lubes. I had a pair of them that Jack Farmboy sent over. So I applied the most flavourful of the knife pivot lubes, and it does in fact work a whole lot better just from doing that. So that probably gave it a little bit of a clean out, moved some of the stuff along just a little bit, but I do yearn to open the full thing up and give the washers a good old alcohol swabbing and polishing and all that sort of good stuff. But anyway, that did kind of piss me off. Hopefully this knife gets some of the attention it deserves. The bug out was nice, a bit smaller. The mini bug out in CF Elite seems nice. It's a bit smaller again. The bailout has that weird. The bailout is now also an M4 and an aluminium, but it has this glass breaker at the end. And I mean, glass breakers on knives. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it, but all it seems to do is add a little bit of a rubbing point on the back of the handle. So I won't particularly wreck that one over this one. This is the one I prefer for the larger Benchmades. You know what? I even think I prefer it to the 940 as an actual using knife. The 940 is a great looker, and I love its action, and I love its sort of its hand. I love everything about how it looks and how it kind of feels. But in terms of cutting stuff and carrying and using every day, I think this one might even be a bit better than that. So, is this my favourite Benchmade? Am I having a realization on the go as I speak this out loud? I may well be. It's good, guys, and I really recommend it. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.